And this is called The Complete Philosophy of the Lord of the Rings. So we're going to see what this is about. So let's do it.
Great stories of our time, not only because it serves as well-written escapism, but also because it touches
These are some good movies.
deeper,
I feel like they were very different, you know?
that clearly touched the hearts of many. When creating the world of Middle-earth, Tolkien was heavily inspired by the myths of old, taking influences from Norse paganism as found in, for example, the Poetic Edda and the Anglo-Saxon epic Beowulf. But it was his own Christianity that ultimately shaped the Lord of the Rings into what he himself believes to be.
Like, this is such a vast world. Like, for someone to think of this to this extent, I'm also creating a world that's really big. As I currently write a novel myself, or novels. Well, actually, I started off with scripts, and I'm basing the novels I'm currently writing based off of them scripts. But with world building, it's so like meticulous, so specific. You're really going to different characters. They're going to, you know, their environment, the architecture, the structure, the philosophies, the different ways of things, you know, the order of things. And in this specific but I call it franchise, this specific world, I'll say, Tolkien really created something that like is like the fundamental of fantasy from what I've learned, and like it's just cool. Okay, it's just cool.
A fundamentally religious and Catholic work.
You know, human creativity and learning is just a crazy thing.
First, but consciously in the revision. At first glance, we indeed find a lot of Christian imagery in The Lord of the Rings. There are angels and demons, heaven and hell, temptation, resurrection, and
he went through it. Frodo went through it.
Physical and spiritual reality. This, however, does not mean the story is a Christian allegory. In fact, Tolkien famously disliked allegories, stating he rather prefers history, be it real or fictional.
What do you guys prefer? Do you guys prefer allegories or history? I think I prefer a good story. I think we all prefer a good story, to be fair. But like, I think as long... You see, this is what's really interesting about me. Once upon a time, I did not like history. I did not care for history. Not because... I just felt like... I don't even think it was the content. It was more so how it was delivered. I felt like it was boring when I was in school. But these days, I've been watching a lot of history videos. And it's just such an interesting thing to like dive into and understand, because it shapes our world today. And a lot of things that happened then are repeated like in a similar way, but a different way today, you know? But for this, wait, what is the allegory again? I forgot. I'm not gonna lie. According to this, like, okay, this is not the definition. Listen, anyway, I like good storytelling. I like good characterization. And we get that in Lord of the Rings with Frodo, with Sam, with Gandalf, with Sauron, with is it Aragorn or Aragorn? I'm a big fan, guys. Let's get locked in.
Stating he rather prefers history, be it real or fictional. He was particularly fond of mythology.
Look at this world. Oh my god. That's nurse. Okay, no, pause. Let me not pause.
They open a door on other time, and if we pass through, though only for a moment, we stand outside our own time. Outside time itself, maybe. When written successfully,
a quote.
Such journeys beyond our own world allow us to glimpse at deeper meanings that are not bound by any time or place, but that are universal to all. There is indeed no better medium for moral teaching than the good fairy story. And this is what made The Lord of the Rings such a phenomenal good fairy story.
I have a book. Where is the book?
This is what made the better medium for moral teaching than the good fairy story.
Wait. The recent cover of Lord of the Rings that I got, let me not knock everything down on my table, has this cover. If you hear something fall, it's because there's a bunch of stuff on my table. Don't fall, please. I've recently showed you guys this in my books I'm reading now video. Look. Same cover, or similar cover. For the 20-year anniversary. You see? Sorry, I just want to show you guys that. Sorry, I just hit the mic.
This is what made The Lord of the Rings such a phenomenal success, as one author comments. Exploring Tolkien's world was not just interesting, it was not even just fascinating. It was sheer joy, for we knew that here we had...
Look at the silhouettes, oh my gosh.
This book was a homecoming. This book broke our hearts. Here was a world that was real. In fact, more real, more solid than the one we left behind.
Sam was a good friend. I'm currently reading the books right now. I'm on the first one. It's taking me a while, but we're gonna get there.
And cut. That's great. We'll check the gate.
In his ambitious task of translating The Lord of the Rings to film, Peter Jackson understood the mythological essence of Tolkien's work, approaching it not as whimsical fantasy, but as actual history.
I said, look, we've been
like even when I'm reading it now, from the language, I wouldn't say it's hard to understand. I would just say it's like very description heavy and very much kind of book. See, I think you can get Lord of the Rings as one book, but I'm reading them as like three, or I don't know if it was just intended that way. I think he wrote that in his prologue, Tolkien, but as I read it, it's very description heavy. Do you know what I mean? You actually have to lock it in when you're reading it to understand what's going on. And even then, it might be one of them things you have to come back to or watch a video like this to get some more insight. But yeah.
Making the Lord of the Rings, but I want to, from this point on, I want to think that the Lord of the Rings is real, that it was actually history, that these events happened. And more than that, I want us to imagine that we've been lucky enough to be able to go on location and shoot our movie where the real events happened.
On top of that, he was able to use the specific qualities of cinema to not only adapt, but also expand on Tolkien's mythology. Most notably,
is that where they filmed like our Hobbiton?
Expand on
I wonder where this is located.
Mythology. Most notably by using New Zealand's natural beauty to give Middle-earth the strong sense of place that makes it feel both otherworldly as well as intimately familiar. And by composing a vast soundtrack that uses musical
I love beautiful scores.
The various
they really make a movie
and ground us even further into this world as one that actually exists. To me, these are elements that have since become inseparable from Tolkien's work, and perhaps even vital to understanding it in its fullness. And so today I want to use both Tolkien's worldview and Jackson's cinematic vision to explore the underlying truth that The Lord of the Rings reveals.
Yes, Lego last year.
Deeper workings and power as a mythology. My interpretation is mainly based on the books Following Gandalf, Epic Battles and Moral Victory in The Lord of the Rings by Matthew Dickerson, J.R.R. Tolkien's Sanctifying Myth, Understanding Middle-earth by Bradley Bircher, and The Philosophy of Tolkien, The Worldview Behind The Lord of the Rings by Peter Kraft. Although these sources are about Tolkien's writing and not Peter Jackson's adaptation of that writing, the essence of the important themes are considered to be preserved well enough, and so I will discuss the books and films interchangeably unless the differences are significant enough to be worth mentioning. With that in mind, let's begin our journey into the vast landscapes of Middle-earth, immerse ourselves in the sights and sounds that gave it life, and explore the deeper meanings that turned an epic adventure into a mythology for the ages.
Hey, let's do it. What an intro. Oh, we've only just started. Okay. Sanctifying history. Are you serious? An ad we're about to lock in?
I'm here at Death Valley, California, Death Valley National
Park
for a new class in our National Park Series over at Kelby.
I know you're lying. Right. Let's get back into it.
We begin in Rohan, with the people who most resemble the Anglo-Saxons in their cultural aesthetics and musical themes. When we first enter the city of Edoras, we find a land in decline that has lost its glory and spirit, and whose king is but a pale shadow of the man he once was. It captures the bleakness that was at the heart of many pagan mythologies, a vision of a doomed world, soon to be destroyed by the gods or by time. Yet, it is in this struggle with mortality that Tolkien, very much like the poet who wrote Beowulf, finds the pagans' most noble virtues, courage and raw will. Indeed, much of the main story arc of the people of Rohan is centered around reclaiming these virtues. When we first meet Theoden, his mind is corrupted by Saruman, but even after he is released from his spell, his spirit has not been fully restored. He still finds himself trapped. He is still afraid to face death and mortality, and so instead of facing his enemies head-on as Gandalf urges him to, "You must fight," he retreats his people to Helm's Deep to be locked away.
See, even, I just want to quickly say, someone like Gandalf, like, I wonder what he goes through mentally. Like, you have to think about it. The amount of people, like, he has to sort himself out, but he's also looking after so many different people. Do you know what I mean? And I know he has powers and all, but it's like, like, at the end of The Hobbit, I know we're talking about the Lord of the Rings, but at the end of Hobbit, there's this one scene where he's sitting next to Bilbo, I think, and he takes the pipe, which understandable. Like, wait, hold on, that sounds crazy. Not takes the pipe. Wait, like smokes the pipe. There's a name for it. I can't remember what it's called. That thing. It looks like not a cigar. It looks like it's a pipe. It's literally a pipe. But like, anywho, they had been through war. All of them. They had gone through it basically, and he sat there. And I remember just sitting there. I just finished watching it yesterday actually, and I said to myself, I was like, hold on a minute, like, Loki kind of deserves it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, he needs, I guess, advice of some sort after all they've been through. Basically, I say all that to say that it can't be easy. Not for him, not for any of them. Like, imagine there's always something going on. And I wonder if things can, like, come back. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've seen a thing where, like, right now they're making something called, I think, like, the Hunt for Gollum. Like, I don't know if that's meant to be some kind of continuation or something, but like, does that mean that stuff can resurface? If that's the case, that means that no one can ever get no rest. Do you know what I mean? How did I even get here? What was I originally talking about? Oh yeah, that stressed old man. Yeah, because Gandalf is looking after people. It's a whole lot going on. It's just a whole lot.
In a giant fortress.
I know what it is you want of me, but I will not bring further death to my people. I will not risk open war.
It is only after being besieged by the Uruk-hai, at the very last moment when death is upon him and his people,
man, look at all these people,
Theoden rediscovers the spirit of his ancestors.
Ride out with me.
And faces his doom with courage.
For death and glory.
But his journey
guys, what would you guys do? If you were in this situation, would you be like, yeah, I'm riding now, or I'm staying home?
Shouldn't be merely adopted. They should be appropriated and recontextualized into Christianity, and in that process be sanctified. The most important aspect of this was to separate these virtues from the glorification of war and death in battle that is found in so much of the language and literature of the Anglo-Saxons. Although Tolkien valued the will to fight and the courage to sacrifice oneself, he did not believe in achieving glory through great deeds of violence or death in battle. And so Theoden is spared from death at Helm's Deep. The restoration of his spirit is not yet complete. But before we continue his character arc, I think it's useful to consider that of Éowyn, who perhaps best exemplifies Tolkien's sanctification of the pagan's noble virtues.
Who knows what you've spoken to the darkness, when all your life seems to shrink.
Nah, this guy,
the walls of your bower
is creepy.
closing in about you.
When we meet Éowyn, she too is trapped by fear. But unlike Theoden, it is not death that scares her.
What do you fear, my lady?
A cage. To stay behind bars until use and old age accept them. And all chance of valor has gone beyond recall or desire.
And the cage is exactly what she finds herself in. But it is not necessarily because she was forced to take care of Theoden, or because she is excluded from warfare due to her gender. No, her cage is the belief that real honor is only found...
Wait, but wasn't there some... Wait, what's the name of that woman? Wait, no, she didn't fight the war. But she had powers to defend herself, or to... I forgot her name. You guys should know who I'm talking about. There's this girl. I think she was... Nah, we'll see if she comes up.
In battle.
There's someone that I thought was able to fight.
That is an honorable charge.
To mind the children, to find food and bedding when the men return. What renown is there in that?
As author Matthew Dickerson puts it, while her uncle is so afraid of death that he has become shameful, she is so afraid of shame that she seeks death. Aragorn does represent the battle-hardened heroism that Éowyn admires, and she becomes attracted to him. But Aragorn eventually rejects her, making it clear that the image she projects onto him, and by extension, the ideal of honor in battle, is mistaken.
It is but a shadow and a thought that you love.
And so while breaking out of her gender role to take part in the war is definitely part of her character arc, it's not its final destination. Which is why, after finally riding into battle and slaying the Witch King, a deed that is certainly great enough for her to die with honor,
Yeah, I know I saw
she too is
a girl
spared
fight,
from
a woman
death.
fighting. But I'm still not talking about her. I'm talking about someone else. Add. I haven't got YouTube Premium, and I don't plan on getting it anytime soon. Wait, military victory versus moral victory. Okay.
As briefly mentioned in the
That was
beginning,
definitely a theme in this,
Middle-earth is separated
in these movies.
physical and spiritual reality. And it is this latter one that was most important for Tolkien, and where we find the essence of his sanctification. What he wanted from his characters was not a great deed in battle, nor a glorious death, for those would reach their conclusion in the physical world. Instead, he wanted them to use their courage to achieve a victory in the spiritual realm. He wanted them to have a moral victory. Theoden achieves that victory when he shows courage not only for his own people, but for those of Gondor as well.
Gun knuckles for 8! And Rohan will answer.
He rides out again, this time not because he seeks death or glory, but because it is the right thing to do. And so when he reaches the Pelennor fields, the outcome of the battle...
This is where, I think in life these things are tricky, yeah, because while most of us do have this mentality of doing things because it's the right thing to do, I feel like with certain leaders, they have like a certain responsibility, and like it's kind of different with that for them, because it's like they're having to do this fine line between what is right and what's also going to protect their people. You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes morality can overlap with them, because even with some of the characters in these movies, you see them try to do the right thing but have other like motives or other things that they have to consider before they can do certain things. Like, I think it's a tough one. And then with those kind of people, when leaders have to make certain decisions between like doing what as much right as possible without doing wrong, do they get more grace? Should we give them more grace? Or is it just what comes with the territories? Like, is it just like you're a leader, so like basically deal with it, you know? Because some people would say, or some people can make the argument that him staying back, he could justify himself by saying us staying back is the right thing to do because we aren't going to fight and inflict harm. We're just going to defend ourselves if harm comes to us. But on the other side of that is like, no, we need to do this out of honor and like go into battle because it's what I guess men in their world do. You know, I feel like it's not really a easy thing to answer. It's kind of complex. Maybe that's just me, but yeah.
It no longer matters for him. It was his choice.
But I do think that the right thing to do is to always do things in the best interest of people, and yeah, even when it's hard. So yeah,
greater cause
and yourself, I guess.
Granted him his moral victory, and made him a true king, worthy of the highest honor.
I go to my fathers, in whose mighty company
yeah,
I shall not now feel ashamed.
The completion of Eowyn's story is slightly different, but similar in spirit. She survives the Battle of the Pelennor Fields and, during her recovery, falls in love with Faramir, who in the book helps her to see that there is no shame in pity, for that is the gift of a gentle heart. To which Eowyn eventually
there's serious quotes in these movies.
I will be a shield maiden no longer, nor vie with the great riders, nor take joy only in the songs of slaying. I will be a healer, and love all things that grow and are not barren. Her moral victory comes when she realizes there is honor outside of battle and gives up her pursuit of military glory to instead devote herself to a life of compassion. Now, a lot can be said about the journey of a woman learning the value of a domestic life, and the bigger issue of gender roles in Middle-earth, but it should be noted that Eowyn's character arc is very similar to that of Faramir, who was also spared from what would have been a pointless death born out of a desperate hope for glory, and given mercy instead. It does suggest that Tolkien was making a point that transcends gender, especially considering that Faramir and Eowyn go on to live a life that is not unlike his dearest characters. Let us cross the river, Faramir says to Eowyn in the book, and in happier days let us dwell in fair Ithilien and there make a garden. All things will grow with joy there.
That does sound biblical. At what cost? And that's the main question that we need to ask. Not only in this, but like, I feel this is just applicable to life in general as well. At what cost? What is the expense? What is the purpose of said thing? You know what I mean? With them, they're doing it for their idea of the greater good, which would be, so for some of them it's to protect their people, for them it's to protect themselves, for others it's to protect their customs, traditions. Like, what is the cost?
Tolkien valued moral victories above all else can be traced all the way back to The Hobbit, where we find that one of the most important moments
and
revolves
this
around
guy right here, Gollum.
Here, Bilbo is trying to escape the tunnels while wearing the ring. Gollum, however, blocks his way out. The safest option would be to kill the violent creature as it is unarmed and unaware of Bilbo's presence. But just as he is about to stab Gollum, Bilbo is overcome by pity.
Yeah, I felt bad too looking at him, even though he was just crazy.
At a greater risk. The moment signifies.
But someone commented one time and said that he's endured mental turmoil for like over 500 years, which is insane. Like, that's crazy. That's really crazy.
More prominent in The Lord of the Rings. Let's move to Gondor. Although named the City of Kings, it has been a long time since Minas Tirith has had an actual king.
Like the structures, that's correct. Oh wow, look at like the design.
Represents a man who is solely focused on maintaining his reign. He wants to ensure victory in the physical realm at any cost, even when that means using the ring, the ultimate weapon of evil.
It should have been brought back to the Citadel.
Darling, get your shoes on, please. Love, how are you getting on with your shoes?
Doesn't sit down mean building.
Get your shoes on quick. Hello?
Hi, Mike. It's Vodafone.
Come on, hurry up.
Thanks so much. Evie, get on your shoes now.
So far, this is an interesting video. I will give them that.
With Vodafone, you only have to ask once and we'll keep on it till it's sorted. Not every network has an ask once promise.
Okay. Are you serious? A double ad? Actually, this is typical YouTube, for being honest. Okay. Okay.
Kept safe. Not to be used. Unless at the uttermost end of need.
By contrast, his son Faramir also wants to protect the city, but not at any cost. Not at the cost of evil.
I would not use the ring. Not if Minas Tirith were falling in ruin and I alone could save her.
Although Faramir immediately rejects the ring in the book, the film gives him a bit more of a journey to get to this point. Nevertheless, in both versions, Faramir defines a line that cannot be crossed, a point after which defeat is more desirable than victory. A question that often arises in time of war is,
wait, hold on.
Are we willing to
you see how Frodo walks through that place there? How did they not catch a cold?
Than victory.
Like, you know, constantly in cold conditions, different conditions.
The time of war is, what are we willing to sacrifice for victory? And while this is obviously a question that many, if not all characters face, Tolkien seems to turn this question around to ask an equally important one. For what values are we willing to suffer defeat? This question is especially relevant to the dilemma faced by Galadriel, because whereas Gondor still has a fighting chance even without the ring, Galadriel faces certain defeat regardless of her decision. This is because her home Lothlorien is sustained by the magic of one of the rings of power created by Celebrimbor. The power of this ring, however, seems to be tied to the power of the One Ring, as it is suggested that its destruction would also mean the destruction.
But yeah, hold on a second, I just realized something. That woman is who I'm talking about.
The One Ring,
what was her name again?
Perhaps more than any other character,
she has powers.
To take it. Yet still she resists, and makes the ultimate sacrifice to achieve a moral victory.
I passed the test. I will diminish.
Would you guys say she was the most powerful female character in this? I feel like she was. The way she spoke, the way she moved, like freedom and evil.
Knowing how important it was for Tolkien to have his characters achieve a moral victory,
Ned Stark.
we can begin to understand what makes the ring so fundamentally evil. To put it simply, achieving a moral victory requires choice, and choice requires freedom. And this is exactly what the ring takes away.
One ring to bring them all, and in the darkness find them.
The purpose of the ring is to dominate other minds, to enslave them, and to place its own will upon them, thereby taking away the freedom of others to make their own
Look at them hiding in the
choices.
shadows.
The very freedom that
I'm not
makes
gonna lie, I will
heroism
say that the concept of using a small but common object to depict all these themes, from morality to good versus evil to obsession to deception to all these things, I feel like that's a really good and intriguing concept. Like,
moral victory is possible. The ring, of course,
it makes
is
sense.
an extension of Sauron,
And it was deep.
whose only cause is ultimate power and domination.
And into this ring, he poured his cruelty, his malice, and his will to dominate all life.
The ring recognizes no other authority than its creator, which also explains why trying to use the ring for military achievements is not an option, for this would still lead to a defeat, as those under the ring's influence will eventually succumb to its corruption and end up a slave under Sauron's dominion. Ultimate power is singular. It does not desire friends or allies. It does not work towards a greater good.
It's like an independent entity.
Itself, like a black hole consuming everything it touches. Instead of building connections, it breaks them. Instead of virtue, it wants obedience.
There is only one Lord of the Ring, and he does not share power.
As we see on more than one occasion, this manipulation of the mind happens without the knowledge of those who are being manipulated. The ring deceives through illusions of grandeur, often by giving its victims the false belief that it can be used for good. For this, it needs darkness. It needs to operate in secrecy, as is symbolized by the power of invisibility the ring gives to its carrier. But invisibility, however, also implies isolation, as Peter Kraft explains. The ring cuts us off from community and contact. We are alone with the eye. There's no room for two eyes. No room for another in the one ring. But it is in this isolation.
This is a real philosophical piece. Like, I feel like this would be good to. I feel like somehow this could be intertwined with people who deal with like addiction. You know, to tell those kind of stories and relate them to like an audience who A, doesn't suffer with addiction, or B, wants to learn more about addiction. Irrespective of whether or not they do suffer with it. Like, I feel like using the idea, like referring to this kind of work and talking about like the ring as a device, I guess, or as a tool that corrupts a person and their soul. And sorry, I hit the last out there. And what's it? I'm not trying to talk, but yeah, I feel like this is a good piece of work to describe that kind of realm, you know, of addiction and stuff.
We also find its weakness, for power is limited to itself. It knows force, pride and selfishness, but not gentleness, humility and empathy. It knows how to take, but not how to sacrifice. And here we find a shimmer of hope, an unexpected advantage, but only if we're brave enough to use it. Still, it might not seem like such values are enough to stand a fighting chance against the might of Sauron and the sheer force of his devastation. And indeed, the quest to destroy the ring often feels like a hopeless one. But in Tolkien's Middle-earth,
keep on going.
Are other forces at play.
Well,
Forces that give spiritual victories a greater purpose. That give even the smallest moral decisions cosmic significance.
That's
and
so cool.
although they only show themselves implicitly, they play a vital role in the fate of Middle-earth, and might even form the very essence of Tolkien's mythology.
Go flip your fit on Vinted. Don't wear it? Sell it.
I tried everything.
Let's get through these ads.
Pomodoro and binaural beats, but nothing stuck.
Okay. Cosmic conflict.
When the Fellowship is trying to find its way through the mines of Moria, Gandalf comforts Frodo by revealing the existence of a higher authority guiding his fate.
There are other forces at work in this world, Frodo, besides the will of evil. Bilbo was meant to find the ring, in which case you also were meant to have it. And that is an encouraging thought.
It is the first real reference to a godlike presence in The Lord of the Rings. a notion that is not to be overlooked as it implies that the characters act within the context of an unseen force working towards its own purpose. A second reference to the existence of this force can be found when Gandalf fights the Balrog
Yeah, it's like a
and
tightrope.
reveals himself to be a
Going
servant
across
of the
that.
secret fire.
I am a servant of the secret fire. The dark fire will not avail you. Flame of Udun!
Oh my gosh. You actually do need a lot of courage for this.
And how it affects the story, we must briefly turn to Tolkien's Silmarillion.
Yeah, I heard of this
expanded
book, but I haven't read
mythology
it.
on the creation and history of Middle-earth. Here we learn that the Lord of the Rings takes place in a universe created by a single god, here named Eru Ilúvatar, meaning the One and Father of all. Ilúvatar created the Ainur, his angelic spirits, and all the living beings in Middle-earth, and kindled within them the secret fire, also referred to as the Flame Imperishable, which can be seen as the gift of an independent existence, containing self-awareness and, most importantly, free will. The Flame Imperishable was the greatest gift given by Ilúvatar because, as Matthew Dickerson writes, it is this freedom that enables them to participate in Ilúvatar's music and to themselves assist in sub-creating new beauty. In fact, so great a gift is it that none other than Eru Ilúvatar himself can give it. His sole ownership of the Flame Imperishable came to the great envy of his most powerful Ainur cult, Melkor, who, similarly to Satan in John Milton's Paradise Lost, wanted to replace his creator and take away the gift of freedom. He desired rather to subdue to his will both elves and men, envying the gifts with which Ilúvatar promised to endow them, and he wished himself to
in the
have
Lord of the Rings, are they only aware of this higher, like, being that Gandalf refers to? Wait, what's my question? Are they aware of only the higher being, or the other aspects of it, like, you know, the darker side, and, you know, what are they just aware of, like?
Subjects and servants, and to be called Lord, and to be a master over
Or do they only know
other
what Gandalf
worlds.
tells them?
He became Morgoth, as you can probably
And wait, how
guess.
does Gandalf know? But they don't.
His chief lieutenant and representative character in The Lord of the Rings is Sauron.
Yeah, look at the eye.
Although this barely
looks familiar.
scrapes the surface of the Silmarillion, it already reframes the central conflict in The Lord of the Rings into one with a greater cosmic significance. For Tolkien, it was obvious that the ultimate power only belongs to God himself, and so he writes,
Look at the
"In The Lord
size
the
of that
Rings,
crowd.
the
That's
conflict is not
unbelievable.
basically about freedom, though that is naturally involved. It is about God and his sole right to divine honor. Sauron desired to be a god king, and was held to be this by his servants. If he had been victorious, he would have demanded divine honor from all rational creatures and absolute temporal power over the whole world."
Isn't that highly problematic, though? Like, to have a human, any human, no matter, even if they were like a good human, the best human that could possibly be, I feel like it's very dangerous for one person to hold such immense power and to be worshipped in a godlike manner. Like, it just seems like a big conflict of interest, power imbalance. Even if it's not problematic to the people, say the leader was acting well, it's problematic to that person's self. Because I just feel like it would just do a number on someone's mental health to, like, yeah, I feel like it would lead to, like, I don't know, extreme narcissism, an inability to, I feel like it would be dehumanizing to that person. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, guys. Like, I just feel like it's not normal or right for one person to have that much, to be treated godlike and to be worshipped in a godlike way. That's just my opinion.
In other words, it's a war for the soul of Middle-earth, a fight to remain under Ilúvatar's grace, to keep the flame imperishable burning in the hearts of every living creature and not fall under the dominion
I think
of
it's
a
okay
corrupt
to want to behave in a way that is of God or a god, because if you're trying to, like, it puts a threshold, not a threshold, like a seat, not a ceiling, how do I describe it? To have a standard that's a good moral one to aspire to be, will always keep a person in motion to do good by doing good actions, good deeds, saying good things, etc., etc. But I don't know. I guess it depends on their depiction of God. But I think most people's depiction of God is a larger than life, untouchable entity. Maybe I'm just thinking too much about how problematic it can be, but yeah.
With angels seeking absolute power.
Responsibility on what?
High protein, low sugar.
Really? You're going to do a protein bar? Is that what we're here to see? No, we're here to listen to the philosophy of Lord of the Rings. Oh, I didn't. Wait, hold on. I forgot it was called the philosophy of the thing. Wait, hold on. What's to say? Responsibility on what? Salvation. Oh, okay.
Let's return to the Fellowship. Now that we have a better understanding of the cosmic forces at play in Middle-earth,
look at how
we can revisit
gorgeous
the importance for our characters to achieve a moral victory over a physical one. For no longer is it a struggle with their own conscience. It is also a reflection of the spiritual warfare between Iluvatar and Morgoth. This is important because it
Morgoth is the dark side, right?
Objectivism to the world of Middle-earth, meaning that there is a predetermined concept of what is considered good and what is considered evil, based on higher forces than ourselves. Striving towards a moral victory therefore not only suggests choice, but also responsibility. As we've seen, this responsibility is complicated by the fact that every character is endowed with the flame imperishable, and is thus free. Iluvatar's creations are not compelled to do good. As a consequence, having the courage to resist evil becomes a great virtue, but failing to do so also becomes possible.
You know, so crazy, that damn ring caused so many issues. The amount of problems that one ring caused.
Presents a world wherein good and evil are absolutely distinct, but not one wherein good and evil people are absolutely distinct.
Yes, there is weakness, there is frailty, but there is courage also, and honor to be found in men.
Tolkien believes that there's a little good in the worst of us and a little bad in the best of us, but not that there's a little good in evil and a little evil in good. He believes in human moral complexity, but not in logical moral complexity. This moral complexity is probably best exemplified by Boromir. We see in him the great nobility and courage of men, but as the son of Denethor, he is also strongly affected by his father's material view on victory and desire for power.
The weapon of the enemy has been found. This thing must come to Gondor.
And so Boromir too wants to protect Gondor at all costs, even if that implies using the enemy's weapon.
What do you guys think? Do you think that all people are complex? Or do you guys think that people can be just evil and people can just be good and that's it? You know what I mean? Or you can just a bit of both. I think it's complex. Everyone's complex in some way. There's good and bad in everyone.
To the foes of Mordor.
But I think some people are worse off than others, and some people are better than others.
Not use this ring.
He is
sorry, I keep on pausing it. I'm sorry, I'll pause it. I won't pause it again. I think it's dependent on the person's environment, circumstances, who they're around, upbringings. I think a whole bunch of variables play into how someone is decided to be good or bad. So yeah.
More tempted by the ring than the other members of the Fellowship, and eventually succumbs to its evil.
It should be mine. Give it to me.
This, however, does not make him unredeemable. Quite the opposite, in fact. For the presence of the flame imperishable also allows for salvation. It is true that in a material sense, Boromir has failed. He failed to protect Frodo, he failed to return to Gondor, and he even failed to save Merry and Pippin. In the end, he suffers the ultimate physical defeat. But again, in the battle for the soul of Middle-earth, it is the spiritual victory that truly matters.
Forgive me. I have failed you all. No, Boromir. You fought bravely.
Definitely fought bravely. Crazy.
So how is it that Boromir received his salvation? For starters, he realizes he has committed evil and apologizes for it. And while his attempt to
salvation from who though? From their god? Like so is there set in stone rules that this is how they receive salvation, or is it what they think or how they perceive that their god would perceive them to receive that salvation? probably should read the books. Keep on reading the books, find out. But like, yeah.
Fails, it does show his willingness to sacrifice his own best interest for that of the Fellowship. It shows that he chose to fight the
Look at these
evil that
ops.
for a
What the
moment
heck?
took the best of him, and it is in that choice that
Nah,
Boromir
they look
achieves
scary.
his spiritual victory. A choice that cements itself when he, with his dying words, fully steps outside of his father's shadow and accepts that he plays but a small part in a greater story.
I would have followed you, my brother. My captain. My king.
The guiding hand of what? Iluvatar? Is that what it says? Yeah.
By now it is probably clear that the freedom that allows moral choices is most valued in Middle-earth. So what does this mean for the role of Iluvatar in The Lord of the Rings? How does he intervene in the story without compromising this freedom? How does he ensure his beloved creations do not fall into darkness? The first way he shows his guiding hand is by providing the Fellowship with a guardian angel in the form of Gandalf. Gandalf is one of the Maiar, the lesser angelic spirits of Iluvatar, sent to Middle-earth in mortal form.
Oh, that's the mix of how he
Iluvatar
knows.
doesn't want
Okay.
to compromise the freedom of his creations to make their own moral choices. Gandalf's powers are limited. His main
Can
purpose
there be
is
bad?
to guide
I can't remember what the name is for the angelic spirits, but like, can there be bad versions of them, or are the ones next to Iluvatar only good, or act in good ways? So, like, you know.
the characters on a spiritual level. Not
By the way, see, outside the video, I was talking about a pipe. This is what I'm talking about.
The characters on a spiritual
Wait, yeah, this. That's what he was smoking at the end of the Hobbit, or trying to smoke.
Not fight their battles for them in the physical realm.
I come with tidings in this dark hour, and with counsel.
That is why we only see him use his magical
The
powers
like
against
imagery,
other
this
higher
is just
beings who are
beautiful. The
corrupted
shots,
by
wow.
evil. For example, when
What are
Saruman
those in the sky,
corrupts the
dragons?
King of Rohan, Gandalf uses his magic to release Theoden from his spell and rekindle the flame imperishable, thereby restoring his freedom.
Gandalf.
Breathe the free air again, my friend.
After that, however, Gandalf only serves as an advisor, because ultimately it is Theoden himself
Like
who
a
must
hand.
take the responsibility to make the right moral decisions and to restore his spirit.
Gandalf really is instrumental in a lot of this stuff. Like, he's very helpful. I guess that's kind of his purpose, but like,
good morning.
I don't know. I don't know, you know, like a good chap, you know, like a good guy. Okay. Do not pause on me. Okay.
Danny Wilson, massive star. Let's write a boy band song.
Let's celebrate. Okay, lock in. Guys, come on. We're nearly done the video. Then we're going on to play the game. Let's see.
Gandalf
Okay.
also serves an important role in guiding Frodo, and it is through his teachings that we get a better sense of the values that Iluvatar wishes for his creations. Beginning with the importance of mercy, we've seen Bilbo spare Gollum out of pity, but in The Lord of the Rings, Gandalf explains why this was the right thing to do.
It's a pity Bilbo didn't kill him when he had the chance.
Pity? It was pity that stayed Bilbo's hand. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them, Frodo?
He wants to make it clear that we should not be quick to pass death as judgment, for not even the very wise can see all ends. Our perception is too limited to commit an act of such finality. And as we see later, Frodo has taken his advice to heart as he, just like Bilbo, shows pity towards Gollum. An act of mercy that, as we all know, will eventually decide the fate of Middle-earth.
Maybe he does deserve to die. But now that I see him, I do pity him.
But there's more to Gandalf's words than this rather logical argument for showing mercy. For although we've been focusing on what is within the power of the characters,
Like, this is
their free will, choices,
definitely not surface level stuff.
Gandalf also points out what is not within their power. As previously discussed, Tolkien separated the pagan virtues from the glorification of war and death in battle, for those require a specific
elephants in
outcome
war
the
is crazy.
physical world,
Or
be
elephant-looking
it a
things.
military victory or a glorious death, and such outcomes are not for us to decide. That power only belongs to Iluvatar. Only Iluvatar can see all ends. Only he can determine the ultimate fate of Middle-earth.
All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
Iluvatar's hand, however, is not directly perceivable to the characters, or to us for that matter. At best, it is shown through what could be considered lucky events. It is in this way that he can intervene without compromising the freedom of his creations. As Matthew Dickerson writes, Iluvatar's intervention does not remove the significance of the choices made by the children of Iluvatar, but in many ways it can redeem those choices. Or to put it in another way, the characters are responsible only for their own choices and not for the outcome of those choices. They are responsible for the means, while the ends are in Iluvatar's hands. The Lord of the Rings is filled with chance encounters and coincidences leading to outcomes of such great importance that one could argue that they were guided.
You know, the concept is so interesting of like how Frodo was like trying to figure out whether Gollum deserved death or not, but like pity was hard on him. It's like we live in this world where we think this should happen, but other people have different views, but when it comes down to it, a lot of the time we also seek the things that we expect or demand of others, but also want to give it to ourselves. So things like pity, you know what I mean? It really isn't black or white. It's like grey, do you know what I mean? Like it's everything and nothing, if that makes sense.
But his intervention becomes most obvious at the very ending, when Frodo,
oh my gosh, irritated me, I'm not gonna lie. I get the concept, but like, oh my gosh, I was like, Meg, are you gonna just act, basically? Like, are you gonna throw it in, or are you just gonna keep on like moving like this? But you know, we got the outcome we got, so.
That has happened, famously fails to destroy the ring. He is attacked by Gollum and, after a brief struggle, they fall over the edge and the ultimate evil ends up being vanquished by accident.
Oh wow. So you can do all that stuff and the outcome to just be what it is.
Eucatastrophe to define this sudden hand of fate, which to him was much more than a deus ex machina or a simple happy ending.
Whoa.
It was pure grace, the ultimate salvation for the courage, mercy, and selfless sacrifices.
Okay, wait, then I pose this question. I give you guys this question though. It's pure grace, but can we say that it was not grace, like it was intentional, because the actions of each person and everyone collectively led to this outcome? Like, I wonder if one thing had been out of place. Like, was this fate? Was destiny? You know what I mean? Would it have happened? You know what I mean? Do you get where I'm coming from, guys? Like, is it grace? Wait, but then again, can intentional actions still be graceful? Depends on the definitions of grace. It depends on the definitions of fate. Like all these things, like I said before, it's grey. I feel like it's not black or white. I feel like it's open to so many different interpretations. Yeah, I don't know.
Children.
So I feel like it's hard to say.
One is not in time. He can make something in our past as well as in our present affect the future. The salvation of Middle-earth and of Frodo is achieved by Frodo's and Bilbo's and Sam's and Aragorn's and Faramir's previous pity and mercy to Gollum.
Yeah, see, wait, hold on. That's why I was kind of trying to say that right there. Hold on. Let me put my phone down for a second. Salvation of Middle-earth and of Frodo is achieved by Frodo's and Bilbo's and Sam's and Aragorn's and Faramir's previous pity and mercy to Gollum. So this is the key thing here. Previous actions / emotions / whatever. So things that happened before that led to this outcome, pity and mercy to God. Do you get what I mean? See what I'm saying? Like the accumulation of prior acts that led to the ultimate action, you know?
And Faramir's previous pity and mercy to Gollum. It also reasserts the theme of moral victories being more important than physical victories by showing us again what is within our power and what is not. It is within us to be brave, merciful, and virtuous, and that is what Tolkien wanted to emphasize. Frodo deserved all honor, he writes, because he spent every drop of his power of will and body, and that was just sufficient to bring him to the destined point, and no further.
Wait, let me read this quote. Frodo deserved all honor because he spent every drop of his power of will and body, and that was just sufficient to bring him to the destined point and no further. Wait, let me read it again. Sorry. Frodo deserves all honor because he spent every drop of his power of will and body, and that was just sufficient to bring him to the destined point and no further. I'm not trying to be that person, but I guess I feel like it depends on what you define as honor, though. Some people would say, I think I'm more so concerned about what they mean by all honor. I feel like definitely it's honor because he did honorable act. This pursuit to arriving at a positive outcome was the result of, as a result of his behavior. But what do we mean by all? You know, what does that mean? Deserve some honor? Deserve every honor? Who are we asking? I'm just asking the question. Okay.
But it is not
Locking that.
within us to see all ends, to decide our fate, remembering that this was a battle for Iluvatar's
Look where it's
sole
going
right
down.
to such divine power. It becomes understandable that the final glory of the physical victory against
Wow.
Sauron belongs to him, and him
Wow.
alone. The nearly miraculous outcome leaves the reader no room for pride or self-righteousness, as many happy endings do. Tolkien deliberately ended the story with a eucatastrophe, not to detract from the achievements of his heroes, but
Why?
rather to emphasize what drives us through hardship and suffering, and that ultimately is the belief that no matter how bad things get, there's no darkness greater than the light. There is always hope.
I agree. There's always hope, yeah.
Beauty up there that no shadow could touch.
Happy days! Say hello to Sky's 99.9% reliable
Airport ad.
broadband for 30 years.
I guess we can allow because it has been a good video so far.
Never sleeps. It delivers.
It has an actual fact been a good video so far. We're nearly done. A mythology of hope.
The Lord of the Rings takes place in a pre-Christian world, which is why we don't see any characters praying for miracles or divine intervention. We don't see them praising or worshipping Iluvatar. And this was important for Tolkien as he didn't want the story to be allegorical. He wanted it to be mythological. He wanted it to reflect a deeper, universal truth. The difference is best explained in his own words. I think that many confuse applicability with allegory, but the one resides in the freedom of the reader, and the other in the purpose domination of the author. We find this applicability in the simple fact that although one can find and be inspired by Iluvatar's existence, it's not necessary to believe in or even know about his presence to reach the same deeper meanings in the Lord of the Rings. What matters is that Iluvatar's flame imperishable, his divine light, his hope, exists within the hearts of all his creations. Therefore, what ultimately drives them is not a faith in God, but a faith in each other. And this, I believe, is where we get at the very essence of Tolkien's work.
And do you guys notice that that's a shared belief? It's a universal belief that is driving them. Could you imagine a world where people were focused more on a positive shared belief rather than trivial things that don't matter? We're focused on so many ridiculous things that we're all guilty of, like whether it be like, I don't know, things that are unimportant, like, I don't know, like how we look, how we dress, random temporary things that we want to attain, like very little things that don't matter in the grand scheme of things. And what they're focused on is something that's going to benefit all of them. It's about their survival, it's about their livelihoods, their lifestyles. Whether it's individualistic or shared, they're doing it so everyone is comfortable when it really comes down to it, you know?
We've discussed how the ring's evil is isolating. It creates a darkness of everlasting conflict, betrayal, and loneliness, where vulnerability is punished and all hearts turn to stone. But therein lies its greatest weakness. It cannot open its heart, it cannot be vulnerable, and thus it cannot hope. For hope does not depend on the power of one, but on the bond between all. That's why Galadriel specifically tells the Fellowship that hope remains while the company is true. They can face evil as long as there remains love and friendship between them.
Is it aura?
And such qualities are not about taking, they're about giving. We find it in the small act of giving gifts, a mithril vest, elvish weapons and tools, and even fireworks that bring joy to all.
There's one vest given to them that can't be like
in giving aid in time of war, in keeping a promise despite the consequences, and in giving loyalty and support on an impossible mission.
High difference.
Interestingly enough, even the quest to destroy the ring is an act of giving, because whereas most stories are about conquering or acquiring something, the Lord of the Rings is about returning something, about giving back the evil that does not belong in this world. It is in these acts of sacrifice that characters find hope. When times are dark, however, it may seem like a mistake to hope for such selflessness, as it depends, as Tolkien describes it, on the behavior of an individual in circumstances which demand of him suffering and endurance far beyond the normal, demand a strength of body and mind which he does not possess. Indeed, as the shadow of Mordor extends over Middle-earth, and the days are increasingly filled with despair, it may seem like such hope is only reserved for the foolish.
There never was much hope. Just a fool's hope.
If the Lord of the Rings shows us anything, it's that this fool's hope is not so foolish at all. It is truly powerful.
There's still hope for Frodo. We can give him that.
The power of hope
but the thing is, even fools have hope.
The beacons of Gondor to send
I just think it speaks to how powerful it is.
It shows how even the smallest
and how powerful it can be.
Can kindle hope within the hearts of many, and how one small act of courage leads to a force great enough to conquer evil. It captures how, time and time again, characters strengthen each other's spirits through courage and kindness, loyalty and friendship. From the
they really went through it. This is a really good movie trilogy, I'll be real.
To a few drops
I feel like there's parts of it that I still don't understand. Like, probably will take me rewatching or even seeing more of these kind of videos, but like conceptually, I'm not gonna lie.
Spreads itself
really
over Middle-earth, inspiring
intriguing,
to
brilliant
stay
stuff.
Strong, to keep fighting.
For Frodo.
And so while there is no hope for divine miracles, there is hope for goodness, for courage, and for brotherhood. There is hope that our friends will not abandon us in the face of great evil, that they remain true when all hope seems to be lost.
Solid.
And it is this hope, this fool's hope, that ignites a fire across mountains and brings the story to its fateful ending. As Aragorn becomes king, Middle-earth ushers into a new age of peace. But the victory is not everlasting. No victory over evil is. Eventually, Aragorn will die and his legacy will slowly fade away. Darkness will find its way into the world again, and the entire struggle begins anew. And that brings us back to the importance of mythology. As Frodo closes the book on the Lord of the Rings, his adventure becomes a story. His story becomes a myth. And that myth becomes a source for inspiration for countless generations yet to come. But above all, The Lord of the Rings shows why we need such stories. Stories that form a mirror to our hearts, that tell tales of friendship, love and trust, and affirm that hope is, and will always be, more resilient than any force of evil. To end with a quote from the Orphean passages. In order to comprehend the experience we are living in, we must, by imagination and by intellect, be lifted out of it. We must be given to see it whole, but since we can never wholly gaze upon our own life while we live it, we gaze upon the life that, in symbol, comprehends our own. Art presents such lives, such symbols, myth especially, persisting as a mother of truth through countless generations and for many disparate cultures, coming therefore with the approval not of a single people but of all. Myth presents, myth is such a symbol, shorn and unadorned, refined and true. And when the one who gazes upon that myth suddenly, in dreadful recognition, cries out, "There I am, that is me," then the marvelous translation has occurred. We are lifted out of ourselves, to see ourselves holy.
Wow, this is some... Wow. Yeah. This is a really well done video. I must say, that was good. Guys, I'm going to put the original video link in the description. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel out. It helps the girl out. Yeah, brilliant video. The philosophical parts of it. It's just... you actually, if you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, go watch it. Go watch it. Go watch it. And read the books. Even though I'm not finished with them, I'm sure they're brilliant. You know, it's Tolkien's work. Like, this is what this is all based off of. Yeah. I'm going to jump on the game now. And yeah. Take care, guys. Bye. Bye, YouTube.